Hello and welcome, everyone. We're going to do a quick sound check here. Sound check. Maybe. Sound. There we go. Okay. I am back. My name is SgtZdog, also known as Kevin. I'm one of the developers for Flashpoint campaigns. With me, I have Liam from over at Matrix, as well as one of my fellow developers, Jeff, who Jeff, I don't. You do a lot of different things. What all do you do end up doing?
Oh, okay. I am the modeling and simulation lead for the team. I work a lot on direct fire stuff and defining behavior level stuff in units and platforms.
All right. So, uh, this is part 4 of our kind of training series on the game. We're going to be talking about artillery today. This has been a companion stream series to the short videos that Liam has been putting together. So, as with the last 3, we'll go ahead and start with the video.
Artillery is the king of battle, the god of war. Attacking without proper artillery support is a surefire way to take heavy casualties. Artillery comes in on- and off-map variants. On-map variants can be maneuvered on the battlefield to stay within range of your advance. Some on-map artillery, like the Soviet Gvozdika and Akatsia, can even be used in a direct fire role, although that's a desperate course of action to take. Both on- and off-map artillery are vulnerable to counter battery fire from enemy guns. Your on-map artillery is also vulnerable to attack by flanking enemy units. This is most often done by tanks, helicopter gunships, and aircraft. By default, artillery that is on call will conduct missions requested by the Fire Control Center. These missions are called in by units that can spot or are engaged with the enemy. The Fire Control Center will also automatically call in fire on enemy headquarters and artillery detected via radar and radio transmissions. Artillery is far more lethal if you have friendly units spotting the target of the barrage. You can manually order fire missions. When they are completed, the artillery will revert to receiving requests from the Fire Control Center. You can also turn the Fire Control Center feature off for individual units. Artillery can fire neutralizing and suppression missions. Neutralizing missions saturate a hex with fire over a span of a few minutes and are meant to destroy enemy forces. Suppression missions fire off the same number of rounds, but over a longer duration. Suppression missions are useful in reducing the enemy's readiness and fixing them in place. Smoke barrages can partition the battlefield and are an important component in launching assaults. While some vehicles have thermal optics that see through smoke screens, they are still a rarity during the Cold War. Besides smoke shells, some batteries also come equipped with specialist ammunition like scattered mines and improved conventional munitions. These rare shells often give you enhanced capabilities like increased lethality against enemy vehicles or the ability to lay a minefield with an artillery barrage. Artillery makes maneuvering possible and is a massive multiplier for your frontline unit's combat power. Keep your guns safe and firing. Shells are a lot less expensive than blood.
We've definitely seen how effective artillery can be. And it really can. I know that's one of the complaints we get a lot with the game is like, oh, the artillery is so devastating, but it kind of is at this time period. I think a lot of people are just used to other games where artillery is balanced for gameplay rather than the heavy simulation that we have in our game. All right. So, diving straight in here, I'm going to hide this. Oh, I am super zoomed in. Let's maybe not be quite so zoomed in. And so we're doing, this is the Overture scenario uh, from the Warsaw Pact side. Oh, that's right. Everything's the same color because it's all in the same unit. So our objective here is these bridges have all been blown, so we need to make a wet gap crossing and secure this bridgehead and then we want to secure either this northern point or this southern point here as well. We start with kind of a reinforced battalion on the ground with a few infantry companies and a couple of tank companies. We have our regimental artillery as well. Then we have off map some rocket artillery. This is 1 unit of 8 grads and 2 units of 6 grads each. However, the 2 units of 6 grads also have either non-persistent or persistent chemical rounds. So we can, if we want, use some chemical rounds in this scenario, which is, we've not done a scenario with chemical or nukes yet. So that'll be fun to decide if we want to use that. And then we also have a few helicopters here to help. So we've got one helicopter unit starts on the board with us. We'll get another one in, I think, an hour, and then another one a half hour after that. So my plan here, I'm going to try and use our helicopters to work their way around the map and find the enemy artillery and hunt that down, because the enemy does have 3 units of M109s, and denying them access to those will save us a lot of pain. And
Hey, Kevin.
yeah.
Can you going back to like your assets on hand? Can you talk to the assets that are going to get you across the river?
Yes. So we have 2 short span engineering bridges, but only these 2. So we can't really afford to suffer any losses with them, or at least not both of them. Our BMPs, of course, are, I believe, all amphibious. Yes, they're all amphibious. So, like, we can get across this river and complete our mission if we lose those. However, it'll leave our 2 tank companies that we start with on the wrong side of the river because they're not going to be able to cross. And I think
How much of your combat power is in those 2 tank companies?
a decent bit. So we've got, I think it's 3 infantry companies and 2 tank companies starting out.
Okay, so is it fair to say you really have to get those tank companies across in order to accomplish your mission?
Yeah, so in an hour we have 3 more tank companies showing up. So, like, we don't need the bridges to meet this mission because we only need to get just barely across the river, which our BMPs can do. But achieving this mission without getting them across will be much harder, especially because
Okay. Scroll down to your deeper objectives, right?
yeah, so we've got
So
this objective
you're
here and this
Warsaw Pact
objective here.
commander. Like you're really trying to do that, right?
Yeah, because if we look at our victory and status conditions, we need 50% of over 50% of the points to score a
Right.
victory. So if we
Right.
leave these 2 points in their control, uh, they'll outdo us on hex points. And then without the ability to get our tanks as close as they really need to be effective against NATO assets. My
Right.
volume is quite low. I will endeavor to fix
No,
that.
I'm hearing you fine.
Yeah, no, it's
the community. It's in chat.
Yeah, I
Oh,
will
okay.
fix that for you guys.
Which I might as well also speak now just to make sure that my levels are all right too. So.
Is that under? There we go.
I mean the point I'm trying to make here is that even in a simple scenario like this, you cross a gap and there's something beyond the gap you need to attack. And that really means that it drives you to the point of like you want to get all your combat power, across the gap, whether it's a minefield or a river or whatever. That's kind of the mindset you want to have going into things, as a
Yes.
default.
Yeah. Um, yeah, our tanks have to get close, so they really need to be able to get across this river. So to that end, we have stuff showing up to kind of provide security for our bridging units. My plan, I'm thinking, is to probably start our artillery with barrage of the wood line here, um, and then end our barrages with smoke on the hexes where our bridging guys will be in place. That way they've got time to actually get there before the smoke dissipates. Um, and we can kind of hammer the enemy position. The other advantage we have is this is only a 4-hour scenario starting at 2 a.m. and dawn isn't until I think basically 3 a.m. Yeah, 2:54 a.m. is when dawn starts. It'll end at 4:30 a.m. So
So what's the impact on the defenders of doing this thing in the middle of the night?
yeah, so the enemy, they're good defensive positions. This hex, the victory hex itself here, is probably a good position to put some infantry where they can ambush on. This hex, I'm just going to hide these victory markers briefly, is actually open terrain. So they're going to probably be, any infantry would want to be in these surrounding hexes. And the third
Okay.
one here, again, is a village hex. So there's actually some cover and concealment there. So we're probably going to see some enemy infantry there, I would expect. But kind of the rest of this, if they just set themselves up at the wood line, tanks and it's the N901 that's the M113 with the ITO tower on it. Those are gonna do pretty well sitting on the edge of the wood line and won't be too heavily hindered by being at night. So the smoke is really going to kind of be important to reduce how much fire they can put out
Mm-hmm.
at us. Um, and hopefully just we'll be far enough back that with the smoke that they won't be able to detect us.
I am remembering from last scenario, our discussions with Jim about thermals, though. Remember about dawn and dusk? How their
Yes.
thermals get mucked up?
Yes. So there is, we could potentially, if we wanted to try and do that timing, we could kind of delay our bridge movement. What I'm hoping, so this is one of those interesting things. Like the scenario, if you play it from the NATO side, all your stuff starts down in the south. Now with the battle plan design, the scenario designer can start NATO way up here, unlike when the player is playing this. So I'm kind of hoping that not all of the NATO stuff is already directly up here in position, and we can kind of move on to this quickly. We do partially have, it's almost a help here that these engineering units are so small. They're just a single subunit. It's a kind of a big subunit with a profile size of 6, but it does make it a little bit harder to spot being a single guy. So I think we'll be okay in that regard. So let's set up our fire missions now.
I think this is the first scenario where we've had rocket artillery, too.
Yes, it's the first one in the training series where we've had rocket artillery. So I'm excited to play around with that. So let's start.
So
Go ahead.
so Kevin, go ahead and start doing your orders, and then you can summarize after that. I want to make a few
Yeah,
comments
go for it.
in general about gap crossing. All right, and many of you have probably heard of the notion of phases to an operation, and this is definitely one of those kind of operations where you want to have phases, and then think about what the mission of your artillery is in each phase. So when you do a gap crossing, like the first phase is you approach the gap. The second phase is what you do to cross the gap. And the third phase is what you do after you get your combat power across the gap. And the responsibilities and the things you want your artillery to do are quite different in each of those phases. So typically, as you bring your forces up to where you're going to do your crossing, you want to use your artillery to suppress, disrupt, and attrit defenders in the vicinity of where you're going to cross. Particularly depending upon the range, there's a big deal about like getting rid of the small arms guys, the squads and the machine guns. And then as you're executing your gap crossing, now you want to obscure. You want to throw a bunch of smoke out there, and some of it is going to be deception, because if you're a defender and you see smoke in one place, where the gap is, well, guess what? That's where they're coming. And you can just blindly throw your artillery on there, and that's very hurtful, right? So it's a good idea, especially when you're playing against a human player, to have deception smoke left and right, in multiple places in excess of where your actual crossings are going to be. And then once you have your gap crossing breach set up, whether in this case bridges or you've blown a lane through minefields or whatever, now your fires need to shift deeper to support the attack on the other side of the gap.
Yep. So to that end, I'll definitely make sure I set up like kind of some extra smoke barrages um, to kind of throw the enemy a little bit off our trail here. And I'm really kind of leveraging all of this rocket artillery and its ability to put down fire really fast here.
I think you mentioned that it goes away after a
Yeah.
few hours, so use it and lose it.
Yes, yeah. So
Yeah, the rocket support, yeah,
if we pull
yeah.
up our reinforcements and withdrawal, so here we can see there's that last tank battalion comes in after 30 minutes, and it looks like yeah, they just bring in a couple more AD units. Then all of our rocket artillery withdraws after an hour. So
okay, so think about the phases and the amount of time it takes to do things.
mm-hmm.
Think about your tube artillery that you have the whole time. Think about you need ammo availability in each phase of the operation. And so that kind of drives you to, well, okay, so my initial suppression and maybe my initial smoke is the rocket guys, and you save your tube artillery for stuff
Sure.
after you get across the river, right?
Yeah.
And so those are interesting wrinkles to think about. And fire planning is a complex thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy, and you got to think it through, and you got to pay attention to time and space, not just where my guys are going to be at where I expect my guys to be at a certain time, but the availability of your fire support is going to change over time as well. Part of it because of ammunition consumption, so you got to plan for that, and part of it is like you have fire support like from outside your organic unit. You get lent some stuff from higher headquarters for a brief period of time. So the rockets are there for your opening phase, and then they're gone.
Yep.
And so that you got to integrate that into your thinking and into your planning for what you're gonna, who's gonna do what when.
Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna do that just a little different here.
and of course that doesn't mean that like once you make contact, you got to change. You don't have to change things. You're going to change things.
Oh. Our mortars only have enough HE for 3 fire missions before they need to reload, so I'm going to have to replan their thing.
You got Basilics?
I think that's what they are.
Yeah, they shoot fast.
It just says 120 millimeter mortar in the description. Whoops, I did that in the wrong spot. So 4 is smoke and 5 is smoke. I want to put
and
4 at this
the other thing you got to think about, space wise for fire support is, like these things got limited ranges, especially mortars.
Yes.
So you got to think
these are big
about when.
120 millimeter mortars, so I think they're
Okay, they're not. Yeah,
they're pretty good just on this side of the river, which is very convenient. Oh, it doesn't
right.
say that they're Veslix, but I think that's what the
Oh,
120 millimeter
Veslix
mortar
are
is.
81s.
Oh, are they 81s? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So we've got big
Yeah.
120 millimeter mortars,
Okay,
which is pretty
which
nice.
got a bit more. They got a bit more range. They're, I mean, the thing with mortars, you got to think about range as well as ammo. And so, like when like you need to think about when during your operation you're gonna resupply guys, and do you need to push them forward so that they can range probable targets. Tube artillery, you got a lot more space to work with. The range is a lot bigger.
Yeah, I
But
think they're
mortars, you got to
good
kind of
chunk of the
micromanage.
map here.
Yeah, mortars, you got to kind of micromanage those guys because of the range limitations.
Yes. And I don't know. My plan here is to just get these points. I'll probably go for this northern point. It's much closer.
Okay.
And I'm thinking what I might do is we'll plot our chemical to just cut off any enemy troops that want to come up this way through the southern point. That's kind of my thought at the moment.
Okay. So what's your your primary cross river objective?
My primary crossing is here. I have
What's
the
your
second engineering unit
what's
going
your
here.
objective after you get across the river? What do you really want to take?
So these 3 objectives, and then my plan is I've got the 2 tank battalions I've got starting, taking this position here and here, so they can provide fire support for taking this position, and I'll have the reinforcing tank battalion move up to take this one as kind of a second phase.
So what's the reinforcement route for the enemy to go to that place?
That kind of depends on where they're starting. If they're starting like in Forchheim, then they're going to come up this road here, and we'll have ample ammunition to hit that.
Okay.
I do have this AT unit is going to take up position here where it can kind of hit the enemy before they can get onto the objective.
Okay.
I have a recon unit here. It's going to try and sneak all the way to here. I don't know if he'll get there because obviously I have no idea what might be already on this objective. But if he can get there, he'll be able to provide spotting on any enemies that might be taking a slightly more concealed route to the objective along this major, what is this, the A73. Because this has a bridge across this river and gives access into all of this terrain. So if I can get a recon up here to spot anything that might be moving up here, that seems like a good idea to me.
Are you planning to run all of your combat power across the bridges?
Pretty much. I think I've got a little bit being held back. But with the bridges blown and our intelligence report, I don't think said the enemy has any engineering units of their own.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing they're bringing across this river is they could bring infantry units in M113s would be able to swim this river as well. I'm not too worried about that, to be honest, because their objectives, same as mine, are hold these bridgeheads.
Yeah, they're defending. My
Yeah,
question is, you have swimmable motor rifle, right?
yes.
Are they going to drive across the bridge?
I think I do have all of them moving across the bridge because
Okay,
it's a lot faster than swimming the river.
okay.
And and if I can get that smoke up with the bridge, I think it'll be safe. I'm a little worried about causing a traffic jam on this bridge, so hopefully that doesn't happen to us, but we'll see what happens when we get there. I am gonna hold, I think, this last
I'll
artillery.
throw an alternative idea. I'm not asking you to
Mm-hmm.
change your plan. An alternative idea would be to, take a company or two of motor rifle, swim them to secure the far side, and push anybody back that could shoot at the bridging units while they're trying to put the bridges in. Because if you lose those you got two bridge platoons, right?
Yeah, and not even
And
platoons, it's
it,
individual
well,
guys.
yeah, you got two bridge units, two bridge two bridge platforms in separate units.
Mm-hmm.
If you lose those things, your plan, pretty much turns to crap.
Yeah,
So, one way to look at that is, okay, so you use artillery, HE and smoke to suppress and obscure while you lay the bridge. That's not a bad plan. An alternative plan is you get some motor rifle across there, make a bridgehead on the other side that is essentially protecting the bridge layers. So I just want to
yeah.
uh, throw that out there to the audience as that's also a valid option to, how you do this.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying that one way is better than the other.
Yeah.
It's something to consider. You gotta do your combat calculus of how you want to do things and figure out what you want to do.
Yep. Let's let's see. Hopefully volume stuff is fixed up for you guys. Let's see. Does the AI counter react to smoke placement? I honestly don't know. If the AI
That's
will
that that
specifically
that
react
that's a
to all the
that's a
smoke
great
placements.
question, and it's going on my list of things to go check.
Yeah.
Human wise, if you're defending against a gap crossing, it doesn't matter what kind it is, whether it's obstacles or a tank ditch or a minefield or a river. When you see smoke at a place that could be a crossing point, you're going to throw artillery in, just because, right?
Yeah.
Makes sense to do that.
So looks like we're kicking off. Jeff, I've got a question for tube artillery versus rocket artillery.
Sure.
So tube artillery, you can use spotting rounds. You can talk onto target. Rocket artillery really seems like you just saturate the area. It's kind of a very deliberately used weapon, not very good for reactive fires. So is this being allocated for like just deliberate assault operations, like rocket artillery held in reserve?
Oh,
And then
it very much depends on the system. So like the Grads, they're not very precise, and so it's an area fire weapon. You go to MLRS, well, that's a different thing. So MLRS in the heavy divisions, you had one battery. You had more at the core level, and they were very much dedicated to counterfire, mainly because of the range, right? And for counterfire, like killing enemy artillery, the round of choice was basically a big pot of ICM, right? Steel rain, and very effective in Desert Storm. Many artillery raids done with that. And it just depends on the system and what the precision of the system was. And back in this era, there was a big gap between precision, you know, and one side versus the other, and system by system. So, you know, the grads, you know, not very precise. You know, the larger system, better precision, but like fewer rockets and slower rate of fire. The big thing with the rocket system is the increased range. So you got a battery of those things, and they can cover a wider frontage than tube artillery.
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't thought about the range difference.
Yeah, the range and precision difference is a big part of why the Warsaw Pact has so much artillery. Not organic necessarily at the lower levels compared to NATO, but organic at the higher levels compared to NATO.
Yeah.
There's a lot more artillery
And
at the regimental level.
Part of that is the Warsaw Pact view on using artillery was, you know, how do you mass fires? And they didn't do it on the fly like the West did, even back in World War II, right? It was, we're going to allocate, we have lots of batteries, and if we want to mass fires here, we're just going to allocate batteries there. Whereas in the West, even going back to World War II, it was more on the fly, and mission by mission. If we want to mass batteries, we make a few more radio calls and mass batteries if they're in range. And so it was more, the Western view is to make it much more flexible for the situation of the moment. And the Eastern view was to like just make lots of tubes, lots of rocket launchers, and then allocate them for a battle. Where you want the mass, you allocate them. Now, maybe not during the whole battle, right? But still, it's not quite as flexible and responsive as the Western view. And the West built a lot of communications systems and built a lot of human software systems to support like that outlook on life.
Yeah, I've noticed before when I've looked at some Soviet artillery that a lot of it is still designed to occasionally function in a direct or semi-indirect fire role. You know, like World War II, their main field howitzer was a 76 millimeter gun, which, if I remember right, usually had gunnery sights for direct fire. So, and a lot of these Soviet two pieces here still can do that, which I think is interesting.
Actually, even in this era, I mean, everybody's got a direct fire or a direct lay sight capability, even down to like company level mortars. You know, in the American Army, the phrase was "gentlemen, level your bubbles," right? Make your tube horizontal. So you could do that. Really, it's a desperation self-defense thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, counter that with like a Soviet attack from the march, right? So the advance guard battalion sends out a forward security element, which is a company level thing, and they, depending upon, you know, like what kind of unit it was, maybe it's got a mortar battery if it's motorized rifle. If it's coming out of a tank regiment, well, it's got a 122 battery, and those guys would do direct lay. You know, what you would call direct fire. The other thing is that, like, it's very useful to take a large caliber howitzer and shoot a building with it in direct fire. That's very helpful, you know, if there's defenders in the building.
What is my helicopter doing here? He's just flying right over the enemy for some reason.
Being a little too gutsy, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, he's doing what you told him to do.
Well, yeah, he's supposed to also have a standoff of I think 3 hexes. Yeah, 3 hexes. So like I don't know why he flew over the enemy. I mean now he's doing it. He's going back to the farm to rearm, but like
because he was moving, right?
yeah,
That's the thing. It's not like there's
yeah,
somebody there. They're too close. I'm going to fly away. No, they continue to move, and then once it gets to the next waypoint, then it reevaluates like the geometry of things and might react differently. Anyways, there's guys on that reinforcement route.
Yep. And I mean, honestly, like, he didn't make it back to where the enemy artillery is, but just spotting those guys so that I can drop artillery on their heads while they're on the road, that's huge.
Yep.
If we can score, of course, it looks like it's mostly all missing right now, which is disappointing to say the least.
I think that roadcom was probably moving pretty quickly, so...
It probably was, but we did force him to
Yep.
dismount by having the helicopter there, so...
You don't see him, but nobody's looking at that hex anymore.
Yeah.
One. Two, even if you don't get casualties, it doesn't mean that they're not being degraded.
Yes. Yeah, so certainly just lowering their readiness from having them take fire can be a significant boon. Now I have possibly overspent my artillery here for this early on, because they're going to spend the next half hour or so rearming. But honestly, I'm kind of okay with that. Like this unit is, yeah, our mortars are close to done, rest and resupply, and I held this unit back as a counter battery. So if I absolutely have to, we can still hit a target with this guy. How is our rocket artillery doing? They 78%. Oh, you guys didn't actually spend quite enough to go into automatic rest and resupply. Probably I should have done the math on that already. Let's see. You guys are the persistent. I might have these guys barrage a non-persistent chemical like here and cut off that road. Or at least make going through that road slow and painful for them. Can I set that as an area fire? I think it'll be the right plan. And they might as well fire all 30 of the non-persistent chemical rounds. I don't think that'll actually make any difference for how we render that out in game, but there we go. And actually, we might as well use our rocket artillery now because it's going to go away in 12 minutes. So that means it's time to put the persistent chemical down here. I don't want to cut off my ability to try and claim this objective, so I'm going to put our chemical on their side of the objective rather than on my side of it. Again, I'm going to do that as an area fire with the 30 rounds that are there. And then I guess I'll order an HE strike with this unit as well.
I think we've been rated, gentlemen.
Hey! Hello, LDE! Welcome, everyone. Can you define an area that your air assets are not allowed to fly over? No, you cannot. However, I will say that the pathing around helicopters will be improved in the next patch. The code is already done. We just haven't gotten that patch out to you guys yet. So yeah, I'm gonna do a neutralizing barrage. I think here-ish will probably be the right-ish space. I'm gonna do area fire again, and I'm just gonna say all and see if we can't maybe catch a few more guys with those rockets.
Before we hit start, I have questions and comments.
Yes, go for it.
Okay, so where are your engineers right now?
Engineers are in position doing engineering things.
Okay, so where's the smoke to hide them?
So if I hide the unit markers, the smoke is there and in place.
Okay,
Um,
very good. Thank you.
yep, and I did take your advice of having this guy try and ford the river early, so he's going to go straight across, though it looks like the enemy is currently out of position anyway, so it probably doesn't end up mattering too much. We do have this recon unit is a GSR um, and has not detected anything, so I'm feeling pretty good about that.
That's good. Yeah, I was wondering if you had GSR. Now,
Yeah, I think we have.
the timing of swimming across the river and your engineers coming to the river, the engineers are at the river and you got guys that are going to swim across. You want to get them across and secure the far side before you bring the engineers up. So there's a timing issue there.
Yeah, I so I probably should have had these guys going ahead. It's just a matter of I didn't want to delay the engineers in case the enemy was out of position. Ideally, yeah, this would be a more than 4 hour scenario, and I would have had our recon swim across the river ahead of time.
Right. Right.
That
Okay.
that would have been the ideal
I
way.
get the time pressure. It's just that like those bridges are irreplaceable and
Yes.
they're critical to your mission.
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, this is very much a time pressure thing if it's only a 4 hour scenario. Um, Ideally, this scenario, this would be a 5 hour scenario that starts an hour earlier, and I would have had at least some recon, potentially these BMP companies fording the river ahead of time so that the bridges can just get in place so that only the tanks need to use the bridges and can do it after that crossing is already secured. Um, we did get pretty much all our recon in place, which is good. I was a little worried about this guy. His initial estimate was for like after the scenario was going to be over. And I was like, I think that estimate is wrong, and I'm glad because he's only one hex away already from the position he'll need to be in.
Hey, Rhodes, I think we're looking at not doing a patch, but the next thing up will be a version release.
Yeah, Rhodes, I'm not sure what you mean by before the beta ends. There's if you're talking about the closed beta for Southern Storm, uh, then if you're part of that, you know the release schedule for that. Um, there will be, yeah, as Jeff was saying, we'll probably have a 214 release soon-ish. There's no date set, so like I can't be any more exact for that for you guys than that. But soon-ish. Oh, you know what? You know what I definitely need to do before this starts is
Armor
I
and air
need to issue
defenses.
orders to my new tank battalion that showed up here.
Oh yeah, that'd be helpful.
Um, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna put one air defense unit here. I'm gonna put one up here, and I would not be surprised if this one gets kind of overwhelmed, and I'm just kind of using it as almost as another recon here. Um, but also the enemy, we kind of skimmed past this, but the enemy does have some fixed wing aircraft as well as I thought I saw helicopters, some rotary wings in here. Yes, 1 to 10 helicopters as well. So they have their own air power that's going to be kicking in real soon. Here,
They also
my
They also
guess.
have 30 to 40, I believe, self-propelled artillery. So they've
Yes.
got some serious batteries to hit back with.
Yeah, they've at 30 to 40, that's probably the same thing I've got where it's 3 batteries of howitzers, and then almost certainly they have a battery of mortars organic to their line units as well. Um,
Platoon, not a battery of platoons.
oh, right. Is a battery 3 platoons? Like a
Yeah.
company level? Okay. Um, so then I'm gonna take. Oh, this is only. No, there's one more. It's just hiding under here. Oh, come back here. So I'm gonna take these guys. Um, I'm gonna issue this as a 2-part order. I think it's gonna be like a move deliberate to here, and then we'll assault onto and past the objective as a second order. Then they're just gonna hold that. Now, if I recall, oh no, this is a built-up hex, this one. Okay. So, yeah, you're gonna go there, and I'm gonna do it on this side. Hopefully we don't end up... I'm gonna have them take that, go up this way, because I'm gonna have an infantry battalion here, or a company here, and a tank company here, and a tank company here. So I want to make sure my guys go around that to avoid the traffic jam. Oh, and I'm not gonna, okay. I need to reissue that as an assault order because of how far away that is. So this is gonna be assault here, here, and commit and hold. That first step can just be a move deliberate. And there. And then second company. Let's have you take this position here. Again, that step is a move deliberate. And then this one, you're gonna go. That's not really as much concealment as I'd like. This one's on the wrong. Actually, he can't get there at all because I don't have a bridge to span this river, and that bridge is blown. So in that case, where do I want you to be? Maybe I have him drive all the way to here. How do I feel about that? Yeah, I'm okay with that. He's off the road, so he won't necessarily get directly run over. And honestly, a tank company is not something that gets run over very quickly anyway. Then the HQ, let's grab them. They just need to move
So you're
deliberate to
driving him
here.
into the contaminated area.
Oh, yes, you're right. Good catch. That would be a, I mean, that is the non-persistent. I don't want to rely on that being over and done with, though, by the time he gets there. Not sure how much visibility he's going to have from this position. But yeah,
Just
it's maybe enough.
put him on,
It might be
put
enough.
him on the road. Put him on the road, just to the north. He can block, right?
Yeah, I just hate having guys in the open. I think if I put him here, he's going to have pretty good visibility.
He's in the open against guys that just drove through contamination.
That's true.
If he gets there ahead of those other guys, he's got the advantage. If the other guys are already there and he comes out, well, okay, flip a coin.
Yeah.
And
All right, we'll
What
try it. We'll try it.
what do you remember what was moving up that road?
It was a mechanized rifle company. We
Oh,
also
and
saw a
and and
platoon of
and,
tanks
and,
in Forkheim, coming through Forkheim. But over
okay.
here was a mechanized rifle company,
And you're moving what? A tank platoon or tank
tank
company?
battalion.
Like okay, no brainer. Like they can
Yeah,
block.
yeah, yeah. They should be okay. I just well, and the it's kind of hard to see. Let me
You're
turn
talking about
off
very short
these.
range tanks versus APCs.
Well, and even if there are other tanks, you can't see past this because the hexes in front of him are forested up. So they're not going
Hmm.
to be able to see him until they're 500 meters away. So I
Yeah,
don't really need to
yeah.
worry about
And,
NATO
and
tanks much either.
no, I mean, once you get inside 2,000 meters, hell, 2,500 meters, it it
Yeah.
it starts to become very equalized, right?
I think I
And at
will.
500 meters, it's definitely like it's they're equivalent,
Yeah.
right? The ammunition is good enough from T-72 at 500 meters against an M1. It's fine.
Yeah, we're not gonna get those M1s on a hill at 4 kilometers.
Right,
These
exactly. I mean, really, I mean, once you get inside 2,500 meters, like and you're in a tank, you got to worry about enemy tanks. You really do. If you're an Abrams driver,
Yeah.
that's like danger close, right?
Yeah.
And now we're talking 500 meters. It's a knife fight in a phone booth.
All
Doesn't
right.
matter. The
So
platform doesn't matter.
I believe our bridges
Mass
might
matters
be
more.
laid. We're getting our. That's the
And so,
persistent chemical down. Ooh, killed something
ooh,
there.
yuck.
It's a awful way to go. There we go. That's what I was hoping we would do there. Let's see. Um,
and for folks who don't know, we talk about persistent versus non-persistent. And I think there was a comment about using to use chems in the attack. Well, you use non-persistent because all you need is a gas mask. You don't need a rubber suit.
yeah.
Persistent, that's a different deal, right? And I go back to my time in National Training Center and CMTC at Hohenfels. Like the OPFOR used non-persistent in the attack, and you'd know they were using non-persistent because you look at them from a couple of clicks away, and the guys are wearing gas masks,
Hmm.
not a full mops, not a full protective suit, but gas masks. So you know that's what's going on.
I
Hey, you were
think that's a
talking
cavalry
about. I
unit.
was gonna say, yeah. You were talking about send some guys over early.
Right.
Looks like that's paying off as
Yeah.
we potentially save ourselves from some
So
counter
so so
battery.
they had some scouts watching the river,
Yep. Um,
which means they're going to call fire.
yep. So
Right.
I'm gonna change this to a move deliberate, and it looks like he's evacuating to at least this hex. So I'm gonna change their orders and have them try and hunt that down. And I'm just going to put them on screen because they're probably going to keep moving after they're done. This bridge is laid now, so it's going to hold. Our tanks have lost their orders, so we're going to have to reissue that. Um, I would prefer to do an assault, but that is, I think, going to be too slow. So I'm just going to do a move deliberate here and hope that that gets them into position adequately. Um, Now, we did get one of our reinforcing helicopters here. So
No,
he's
that's a
gonna
very
come
very
down.
interesting area for it to come onto the map from.
Yeah. So I mean, we're of course the Russians. So the backstory of this scenario is our regiment has kind of struck deep behind enemy lines. Now we're trying to like secure our position. So even though we're Russians, we're attacking going east um, as NATO goes north to try and cut us off. So our helicopters and stuff, that's still, off at the airfields and stuff, which is why it's kind of coming in from this direction, I think. Um,
Yeah, that you got that's the geometry.
yeah, it's kind of a weird situation that is not common, but does happen. Ooh, look at that. Our chemical stuff did good
You're talking
work.
about like dealing with salients, right? And once you have those things, then things get wonky, and you got guys attacking locally. It's like a weird direction as opposed to the larger scale of like in the theater, right? In the theater, it's attacking from the east, but locally, you're going to have attacks from any direction on both sides.
Yeah. Someone is saying audio is still a little off, so I will try and address that some more here real quick. Liam is in the middle, so Liam's good. So I just need to turn down just a little bit there. Maybe there. All right. Hopefully that's a little better for you guys.
I want to be loud.
That's fair. That's fair. And I mean, you've got the most authority here,
Yeah.
so
I won't
legitimate
say that.
claim.
I have a bit more experience, but I won't say authority.
Yeah,
And
you
like
are the biggest
all you
subject
guys,
matter expert, and so that gives you
yeah,
knowledge authority.
Mr. Smee, you're Captain Hook. Okay,
Yeah.
so all right, so and honestly, there's folks I have no idea out in the audience, and like throw rocks. If I say something that sounds stupid, throw rocks. We'll talk about it. I'm fine with that.
hmm
Absolutely.
Um. Okay, so these guys, I'm a little surprised they're still rearming. I'm gonna grab this guy who's my counter battery, and I'm gonna have him do a neutralizing strike here, see if he can't catch that guy. And then I want him to go back to counter battery
Go
when
back
he's
and look at
done.
that. Go back and look at that. I think you misclicked.
I
I
did no,
think
I
you're up.
meant to do 2 clicks because I want to try and
Okay,
catch it in
okay.
the hex where I spotted it, but he might evac before the shells start landing, so I'm gonna
All right,
hit in the direction he's heading as well.
all right.
Um,
It's your ammo. You spend it how you want.
well, that's the battery that I reserved for counter battery, so he's not probably gonna need the ammo for anything else anyway. Um, and I do want to just highlight in audio here and this is probably all the chemical, killed 12 infantry and 3 AT. That's basically an entire company right there, which is
What?
devastating.
No. Hang on a second.
12 infantry would be 4 squads 3 times, right?
Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. 3 AT, that's, most of
And
the
3 AT,
ITOs.
yeah. Well, no, that
Ye-
ITOS would be probably the self-propelled AT, which we
You're
did
right,
get
you're
a
right.
couple
Right,
kills on.
right. You're talking about dragon teams
Yeah,
in
this is
squad.
yeah, the Dragon teams that are organic to those mechanized infantry platoons.
Right,
I
right.
see.
So yeah, I mean we killed
So
most of a
yeah,
company here. That's kind of
you zeroed out.
reinforced by this spot here where
Pretty
we
much
see
zeroed out.
two
Yeah,
APCs,
you zeroed out Met Company.
which I'm happy to do. That is a massive win for us. Just killing that basically out of the gate before any direct fire has happened, other than whatever happened to this. What is? Yeah, I mean this is. We killed 1 transport. I don't see the
I
infantry
I think that's
marker.
that's a scout platoon. So you killed their track, their 113.
Yeah, we don't see the infantry marker, so
There might be one that's just not identified, so it says 2, but there's
yeah,
actually still 3.
that's what I'm
They
thinking.
may have
Might
scooted
be.
back far enough that you lost spot on them too.
Yeah. Oh, hey, we are catching them. I wonder if we'll end up catching them in both hexes. I didn't expect that artillery to be quite that fast. There's that persistent gas wearing out already. I didn't expect it to wear out quite that quick, but I'm not too surprised.
No, that one's non-persistent. I thought the one
Yeah.
to the west was
This
persistent.
is the persistent. Yeah, sorry, non-persistent. I misspoke.
That does wear off quite quickly. I thought that would stick around longer too.
NCR Trooper says you have to sing, Liam. You've got the good mic.
Yeah, that might be a friend of mine that I told about the stream.
Okay,
Next
we
Home
do
of War
have-
Gamers, I'll encourage Marco to book a cabaret sequence, and we'll get
Yeah,
everybody
there
in
you
the
go.
office.
There you go. I'm gonna zoom the map out so it doesn't jump around quite so much here. Oop, that was probably a little more than needed. And yeah, again, this spot, it looks like it's just the APCs, no infantry with them anymore. Though it's showing leg movement, so I wonder if there's some unspotted infantry with them.
It is also an interesting time. It's dawn started, so those thermals will not be
Yes.
behaving very well right now.
Yeah. Man, if we can just kill the entirety, if this is probably their big HQ, so if we can just kill the whole unit, that has a rather significant impact on the enemy. I think it's mostly an order delay that happens that gets rather heavy.
Command delay.
Is it command delay? Yeah.
It's command
The
delay.
command delay gets really punishing if you lose your top level HQ. So if we can just get that whole thing, that would be amazing.
Ooh. Fixed wing.
Ah, that's frustrating. This is like the worst possible timing for it because it's before it's light enough that we can spot it. And look at that, just most of that company is just dead. Ooh, hey, hello. Ah, this is the enemy helicopters. Hopefully they don't have stingers. I have no idea what they've got though. We're gonna have a bit of a
Probably not.
gunfight between
Probably
helicopters,
not.
which is interesting. Oh,
Yeah.
and they're winning. Oh, is that 3? Oh, we
That
might
might be
have
the
managed to
company.
get the last of that.
Yeah, NATO's OODA loop has definitely gone up in terms of time.
It started at 40 minutes. It's actually a bit faster. Our Ewar against them, I'll show that off in this
Well,
scenario,
the other
is
thing is
really strong.
as you lose subordinate units, it's kind of like the ratio of leader to lead, and as the lead shrinks, your OODA loop shrinks as well.
Yeah.
So like you lose subordinate units, your OODA loop shrinks. You lose headquarters units, your OODA loop increases.
Okay, so there's probably an enemy FARP somewhere around here. On the other hand, I really want to find the enemy artillery. Well, we're gonna hope that we don't. This is one of those, like, I would like to run into the enemy FARP, except that the enemy FARP will have at least 2 Stinger teams in it, and I don't want to run into the Stinger teams.
Okay, stop for a second before, okay, so you're gonna run a Halo down there, and the endpoint is in the middle of the enemy sector.
Oh yeah.
I'd recommend your endpoint egresses the enemy sector, and then next cycle make another run back there to look for stuff.
We could
Don't
try
leave
that.
that guy hanging. Don't let that guy hang in the wind.
We could try that. This is still
All
kind
right.
of a little bit enemy sector because we haven't secured this necessarily, but I'm feeling okay about it. Let's see.
Well, except that most of your NATO ADA assets don't have radars.
Yes, yeah,
You
they're
don't know where they
stingers.
are until they shoot. Unlike Warsaw Pact, which has a mix of stuff, right?
Yeah, all of our stuff I think in this scenario is manpads also. So that's a big
Okay,
part of why the fixed wing there was so devastating because um,
right, right.
our let's see, I want multi-unit air defense against planes. Actually, it was pretty good. Did we just? I don't think we got a shot off though.
Didn't acquire. Yeah, I mean that
Yeah,
happens. Don't acquire. You know, and we don't do an intensity of like number of units makes it darker or anything like that. It's just like
yeah,
somebody can shoot in that sector.
yep,
Might be one man pads,
yeah.
or it might be 10 man pads. It's the same on the overlay.
Um, let's see. So these guys haven't spotted anything. You're holding that road in case this guy does spot something. What's left of this company, which isn't much.
It's a lot of thrown tracks.
It's a lot. Yeah, no, they got really badly savaged. We've got, is that 2 BMPs left carrying a Metis and a 50 cal team, which is never where you want to be. Hang on, my wife opened up the window so it didn't get too hot in here, but this game does not actually have my computer making all that much heat, so it's getting a little cool in here. Close that
Okay,
window
so
up.
Claude, talking about like turn
Engage.
back.
Might choose to go
Yeah,
rearm instead. So
right.
generally the automatic rearm is going to be based on your anti-tank munitions. So they will have probably not, because they will have only used their guns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so it would be nice if they would go back to their FARP, but they probably haven't yet. Um,
And our view is, you know, from a NATO standpoint, attack helicopters are primarily anti-armor systems.
most of them.
So
The ones that I started with are rockets, but yeah,
yeah, I mean, like, you know, the ones with ATGMs, they're anti-armor systems. So the turn back decision is based on the ammo left for anti-armor. And so this is kind of a corner case where you have, you know, they dumped all their gun ammo. Do they turn back? Well, given
well,
the threat, I
and they
think it's
probably
fair to
haven't
say
even
no,
dumped all
they
their
don't.
gun ammo. Like you can
But a
see,
lot of,
mine only used 3 out of 15 bursts. So
yeah, I mean, we don't know, but I mean,
yeah,
um, even if they did, it's not it's not unreasonable that they stay in sector because they got their missiles. And the big threat is an armor threat, you know, whether it's tank or APC or IFE. The big threat is the armored vehicles, and that's like their you know, bread and butter meat and potatoes thing. That's their main mission. So I don't see a NATO attack helicopter that has missiles turning back because they shot all their gun ammo.
yeah. The gun ammo is important, but it is not the big dangerous thing. Oh, that poor helicopter running right over another Cav Scout.
Yeah, more Cav Scouts.
Ooh, what's down here? These are HQs of some sort.
Well, might be mortars and FTC.
Yeah, this one could be. Yeah, it
I
could
mean,
be
those are
mortar and
113
commander.
those are 113 silhouettes, right?
Yeah. Ooh,
So
oh, that
I think that's probably their mortar platoon.
it could be the
Awfully,
Cav mortar platoon. Yeah.
awfully
Yeah.
far back
So,
though.
and
Yeah.
it is, you know, and we don't know if they're moving or not, right? And they got a range of like what 6,700 meters or so.
Ooh, there's still 6 guys.
So they're not a factor in the fight right now. mean,
There
you
we
can
go.
send stuff after him because you want to kill stuff. But the fact is, those guys probably, very likely, can't contribute to the fight where they're at right now.
Yeah. No, they
And so,
probably can't. It's more. Um, oh no, Sparty. Yeah, so that's the full mortar unit. You fire on the singleton. That was probably the command M113 for this mortar unit.
yeah, the fire
Would be
direction
my
center.
guess.
That's platoon headquarters.
Which I feel like for our modeling, it's probably worth maybe flattening that out, just because that platoon headquarters I don't think ever really has an advantage in
You know,
being in a
I
different
don't know
spot.
if
But
I don't know if we degrade either batteries or
ooh, what's this?
mortar platoons
Oh, helicopters.
if we kill the
Go.
FDC. We probably should.
Oh my
I gotta
lord, what a
I
shot.
gotta research that.
So I know for every hop you have to make, it increases the response time of the artillery calls.
Right.
So if you have to go through that HQ to get to the actual mortar unit, I think that's probably going to have the impact of increasing that response time.
It's more than that, because the FDC for a platoon or a battery does the computation for all the tubes. If you lose the FDC, now every tube has to do their own computations manually on a
Right.
plotting board. And so I think that first level FDC has a bigger impact than we probably give credit for.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh,
like
what's
right
this?
now it's just another link in the chain. But I think that first link is more important. Probably, actually, you know, I mean, we're talking about the firing data like you lay on the gun, right?
Uh-huh.
Not like we're, you know, like not like with the digital firing systems where it's like, here's where you're going to shoot, here's the target location, shoot this.
Yeah.
It's like, what do I put on my gun? You know, azimuth and elevation. And if you lose your firing direction center, then like you're talking about, the crew's got to pull out a manual, like, you know, like it's like 18 inches square board, get out the grease pencil and pull out the paper charts about, like, with the ballistic data for range and charge and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we probably undervalue those FDC tracks. And if you lose those things, I think there's a bigger delay involved
Yeah.
with a firing unit, like on the order of like 2 or 3 minutes.
So in a couple, in some of the tutorial episodes leading up to this one, we talked about, the difference between NATO and Soviet artillery.
Uh-huh.
NATO is fire and maneuver, and the Soviets, it's fire creates the opportunity to maneuver.
Right.
So, we've already talked about this, but this is the artillery episode, so let's maybe go over it again for people. When you're building a fire plan as NATO or the Soviets, there's a lot of shelling positions where the enemy's likely to be.
Yeah.
Like
how we hit just this entire hillside. If I zoom in here, you can see the craters just in every hex. Um, I'm using it here to deny the enemy spotting because I think this is where that recon was spotted. I guess I could actually pull up the intelligence report.
So I was
Double check
hoping,
that.
Jeff, maybe you could comment a bit on sort of the use of artillery to deny spaces, even if you don't know if an enemy unit is there or not. How it's still worth dropping shells.
Okay. So, and this applies to direct fire too, which we've not modeled this yet. We're working on it, but there's known enemy locations, like in the game, that's a spotted unit, and there's suspected enemy locations. So what does that mean on the ground? Well, when you're on the ground, it's like, that's a good place to be, right? If I was the other guy, I'd have troops over there. So you smack it, right? And that's what Kevin did. he looks at the terrain. He goes like, well, okay, I want to cross here. And so where are the places that would be good places to either shoot or observe, right? And so you smack that with artillery.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have a target, right? So you know, in game model terms, it's a blind fire, right? It's not observed. You're not adjusting onto a unit that you've spotted. So the effectiveness is less, but you know, it's worth doing.
Because you might get something. We didn't get much in our initial
Even
volley, but we
even
got
if,
something.
even if you don't, and like you know, artillery is the king of battle, right? So what does that mean? It means that at the war level scale, the most casualties are caused by artillery, right? That doesn't mean that at the shot level, that's always true.
Yeah.
At the shot level, if the volley lands where a unit is, you're going to have an effect. It may not be casualties, but it's going to degrade them. It's going to disrupt them. And we model that stuff. It's a readiness drop. So you got that. The other thing is, you know, going back to planning your fires, you know, according, you know, you have your operation.
Our Iglas. Oh, they're getting some good long-range shots. I like that. Sorry to interrupt. Just
Yeah, that's okay. And I would encourage folks to think about your artillery as like, what do you want them to do at this point in the battle? And then what do you want them to do at the next point of the battle? So it's like think of it as tasks. And that drives you into where do they need to be to shoot, when, and what's the target list.
yeah.
It's tempting to like take your artillery and every time you see something, go swat it. And you can do that, and you're going to get victory points from casualties, but it doesn't necessarily give you the best contribution to mission accomplished.
Yeah, you gotta go for. You need the casualties in a lot of scenarios because you're gonna take casualties. You gotta inflict some to counteract that.
Right.
But taking those victory hexes without suffering too many casualties of your own is really what's gonna score you into the victory margin. Ooh.
Okay.
Poor AT unit.
To cloud about non-persistent gas. We don't really do weather on gas. We don't do downwind drift or anything like that. So it's really a time thing.
I know
Non-persistent.
wind affects smoke, so we might have it affecting non-persistent gas too. Wind specifically. I don't know if anything else does. Actually, I might even be able to show that if we look at the weather forecast. Yeah, it's not a terribly windy, so I can't show it. But if you pull up a scenario that's got some wind going on, you'll see that show up.
Okay. So the duration may be linked to the wind speed.
Yeah.
But there's no downwind drift. We don't have
Yeah, we don't. It doesn't move around.
We don't have gas clouds moving around. Yeah.
I noticed too the wind was quite slow, so that gas did disperse quite quickly.
Yes. I would have definitely been okay if it lasted another half hour.
And we also don't do, to my knowledge, like temperature gradients above ground? You know, do you have a thermal
No.
inversion that
Yeah.
makes the cloud hug the ground, or does it,
Yeah.
you know, rise up and disperse? We don't do that.
Yeah, the cloud, where the clouds are is based on the historical weather data that the scenario is pulling from. Man, this is not the route that this unit was supposed to be taking, but he's somehow still managed to find these cat scouts. I don't know what this route is, but it's like, it's working somehow. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
Ooh, that was nasty.
Oh, so much pain. Oh, that was 8 dead tanks. Oh, so much pain. Oh, man.
So that to me looks like accurate spotted fire on your armor.
Yeah, there probably is something that was
The
able to get a
the
spot
the
on something
the,
over there.
the Cav scouts called the artillery, then died while the rounds were in flight.
Yeah. Let's send this helicopter to continue trying to hunt. I know there's a little bit more Cav recon up here somewhere. Um, but the recon is not as dangerous as the artillery that does the actual firing. So if I can get him to hunt that down and kill it, that would be ideal. Um, you know, it's always nice when the mortars are hitting the infantry and the howitzers are hitting the tanks. It's so often that the FSC does not allocate it the way that way. It's nice that it is doing that for a change. Um, and there we have changes coming for that too. Um, how stuff will get allocated. So that's coming too. But I feel like we're doing pretty good here with how many tanks I've got going into this to take this hex.
Most of your maneuver units do
I,
appear to be over the river, so that is good.
I'm concerned that you have no picture of what the enemy's doing.
It is. I would be
There's a
lying if I
battalion
said
out
that
there.
doesn't concern me. I mean, we've killed a significant fraction here. Like as I said, there's a company here. We've killed a platoon here. 6 helos killed. Holy cow! Do they have any helos left? Have we just killed all their helos? Recon tank, our APC, infantry, anti-tank. We have killed all of their helos.
Probably.
There's no more listed in our intelligence summary.
There's a
So
bunch of Abrams out there somewhere.
yes, we do still
I think
have
you killed
a couple.
two,
I think it was
and
more
you
than
got a
2.
company that's
5
14.
tanks. We killed 5 of them. So there's still 2
5. Okay.
platoons.
Yeah.
And at least a couple of them I think are here. Where uh, this barrage is actively underway
But
on.
my point is, you don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. It's unfortunately true. We had line of sight of them. We lost them kind of at the end of that turn.
Okay, so you're running your helos deep to
Try
like
and hunt enemy artillery.
suss out suss out the enemy fires, and you don't know what's about to be in contact with your frontline guys.
I unfortunately, well, okay, but I do know what's not going to be there because we were seeing a bunch that is already dead.
Mm-hmm.
Let me grab
I'm
that.
just saying from my experience working in command posts,
Yeah,
I would be uncomfortable not knowing where the bad guys on the
yeah.
ground.
We did catch the rest of the unit of M901s trying to move forward and killed that off.
Uh-huh.
So we know there's some tanks here. Um, and I am thinking about trying to push this scout unit further forward. Like
You could
maybe
do
if
a
I
run
can get him
around.
to here.
You could do an interesting run around through Karenhofen and Reltern to Bammersdorf. Then there's a nice complex terrain, elevated ground there.
Yeah. So part of the thing is you don't want them too far away because we look. I apparently need to mute another Chrome tab. Um,
Hey,
we look
Cloud,
at the
thanks. Appreciate the
spottable
comment.
distance. So I'm thinking I want him to get here so that he can spot both of these roads a little further ahead. Um, trying to think of what's the best way to get him there. I think he's just going to have to try and move carefully. How do I feel about that route? I think that's just as good as that gets. It is nice that these guys are close enough to their destination to have dismounted so that if the enemy fixed wing is able to resupply and come back already, they're armed and ready. How are these guys doing on ammo? They're full. These guys are over half, and I think there's a team under here. They're at 38%. That's enough to at least take a shot at the enemy.
Okay, let me ask a question for you, Kevin.
Sure, shoot.
So at this point in the battle, what is your main task you're trying to do?
So right now, that's the thing I forgot to turn back on, is take this hex. These three are fairly well secured, so I want to take this one. And the thing I was just about to try and figure out how I want to do it is try and scout out what's over here. We've gotten some kills with the chemical over here, even in this last turn. So I
Why
know
do you
there's
care about that? Why do you
something
care
over
about that?
here.
You're not trying to take it. Why do
Well,
you care about
because I want to see if this one's actually easier to take than this one. Because if this one's not actually heavily guarded, obviously I'm not going to be able to send this tank battalion over. I don't have enough time for them to get the orders and then do the full movement.
that?
But I
Yeah, it's
could
20.
potentially
That's like 3
cheekily
clicks
send a
away.
recon down there or just this one rifle company down. Um,
All right. I mean, your fight is in the Northeast.
yes.
That's where your combat power is,
Yeah,
right?
so that's why, like, for right now, I think all I want to do is just push my recon further ahead.
Okay.
I don't think I want to do anything more than that, because if nothing else, it could potentially let me spot the enemy recon before it gets close enough to
Okay, so
call in
you
artillery
you
fires.
got you got a helo section in the air.
Yep.
Do you think it might be useful to overfly
Yeah, so that was
just
kind of the
front of your
next thing
over in
is
front of your front line of troops
this
that are
guy is now
trying to take
ready.
that objective to the Northeast
Oh, I see
and
what you're saying.
get a picture of
Um,
what you're
yeah,
walking
we could
into?
send this guy in. He'll get there before anybody else
Okay.
really does
Okay.
anything. So I'm going to have him do that. He'll just kind of poke his nose around, and then I'm going to have him fly back, and I
Yeah.
want him to poke his nose here. So I don't know how much of that he'll get done in time, and he may get shot down before he completes that, but he can go poke his nose around because he's ready to go at this point.
All right.
Abrams Boulevard here. Yeah, it kind of is. The A-73 is kind of Abrams Boulevard. Because we spotted the one tank unit here. I probably should have, actually. Now that I think about this, it's too late to do anything about it now. But as soon as I spotted that one tank platoon in like turn 2, I probably should have right then made the decision to send my tank battalion at this point
Well,
instead.
I think you got a recon section that's moving south parallel to A-73. I think you're going to get some early warning from that guy if
Yes.
there's guys moving up A-73.
Well, I don't think there's like anything more. I think whatever's here, it will already be
Well, you
here,
know
but
what?
he might spot it.
His endpoint Get him out of the valley. Get him where he can see A73.
He actually can see A73 pretty well from here, I believe. Yeah. Okay, not well, but he can.
Okay.
I think it'll be good enough because, as I said, I don't think there's anything else. And honestly, if there is something else coming up that A73, this guy's right here to catch it.
All right. All right. Drive on.
How's he doing for ammo? Oh, he's probably just complaining about it being too far away from his headquarters. Yeah, he's just not happy about how far away he is from his headquarters. I don't know where his headquarters is, honestly.
Well, he's a recon, right?
Oh, no, this is self-propelled AT. His
Oh,
headquarters
yeah.
is here and is actually moving to get closer to him. So,
All right.
yeah, he's fine.
That doesn't affect his fighting, and what it affects is
Yeah, his ability to
you
take
give-
orders, which he
give
doesn't
him
need
more
to take any
orders.
orders.
He's going to be slow.
Yeah,
All
he
right.
doesn't need to take up any more orders. He's got all the orders he needs. He is exactly where I want him to be.
Okay. Cool.
So I'm feeling
Run it.
pretty good about this right now. I'm really sad that we lost sight. Oh, there we go. We did finally finish. Is that enemy?
That's fixed wings.
I would say, is that fixed wing dropping on the
Yeah,
enemy scout?
it
Oh,
sure is.
okay, yeah. Ah, come on. Is that like just? I just want to see. Is that just outside the range of our ability to catch that? Actually, I don't even need to do that. I can just do. No, it is in range. Ah, pain, pain. All right.
Not having any Tunguskas.
Yeah, I mean the Manpads did great at hitting all those helicopters, but have really been lacking against the enemy.
Man pads
aircraft.
at extended range are hard against fixed wing.
Yeah.
You know, they're hex away. You know, like they're going to do a
Okay,
decent job, but like you get out to like the edge of their range band, well, it's like less than flip a coin.
Yeah.
And that's just the limitations of the technology, and you know, fast mover versus a missile at the end of its, you know, engine burnout.
Yeah. Oh, man. I would really love it if our counter battery could hit some of that enemy artillery. And I don't know, maybe he's just out of range. That would be really unfortunate if he was. There we go. We got a bunch of tanks right up on the enemy here. I should be able to put in some work now. Maybe? Maybe? Those Abrams holding tight. Holy cow. Come on. There we go. Got one of them. He gets revenge, though. Come on, guys. You can get him. I believe in you. There we go. All right. So now we have our 3 victory hexes. Oh, hello. Didn't expect to see them there.
This is also a very interesting scenario compared to, say, you know, you head a bit more north in Germany. There's some scenarios in Southern Storm that, you know, it's a lot flatter, whereas this one, you know...
Oh, this is interesting. He is super far separated from his friends. This is something we don't usually see. Oh, this is the command unit for it, because there's an M113 here.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
The Abrams be from a cavalry unit?
Yes, you're right. This could be from the cavalry unit. That would make sense. If this is from the cavalry unit rather than the company commander for the tank company. And that would actually track pretty well for how we saw all of that cavalry on this mountainside. Hillside? I guess it's a hillside for how tall it is.
Okay, so parenthetical comment here. So what we're talking about at this point is understanding the enemy order of battle and their structure of their units, and looking for signatures, you know, on the game as it unfolds to figure out what kind of unit we're talking about.
Yeah. We got this Cav scouts are still here. I would really like them to go away. And there's something it got spotted
Well,
here.
it's a two banger unit, so that's a dismount
Oh,
element
there we go. We
and
killed one of them. Maybe the
a
artillery can
vehicle,
kill the other one. Yeah, and we killed the Bradleys. We just got to kill the dismounts now.
and if they're set up for hide the carriers,
Oh no, not the fixed wing again. Oh, there's even, I think, was that a manpad team I saw in that hex? There is a manpad team in that hex. Oh, oh, did it kill it? No, I don't think it did. That's so painful.
that's a lesson. You know, man pads against fast movers is a tough shot.
Yeah.
Man pads against helos is a lot easier, and you get a lot more kills.
Yep.
And so
These
if all you got
casualties
is
are
man
racking up.
pads, if all you got is man pads, you know, you're vulnerable to fast movers. Now, if you got, you know, other things like, you know, OSAs or Tunguskas or other things that are vehicle mounted, they got better sensors, better controllers, and they got a better chance of killing a fast mover than a man pad is.
Yeah. Um.
Uh,
All right.
I mean, and just think about it on the ground. You know, you got this thing that like weighs 10 pounds on your shoulder. You got to swing it around and you got to acquire the target in your sight before you pull the trigger. You can't just like point it in general direction and pull the trigger and the missile's going to find it. The missile has to have a lock before you shoot it. And a fast mover is moving fast, and you're on the ground, standing on your feet, and you don't see it from very long ways away.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Yeah. No, it's definitely not a
And
thing
you're
I would be
outside
willing to
the
do.
you're outside the integrated air defense system. The only thing the IADS can do is say, hey, there's something coming from, you know, like, you know, the northeast. And
uh,
you can look over there, but the soldier has to acquire the target through his missile sight. And that's not easy with 10 pounds on your shoulder, tracking a fast moving target.
Yeah.
So man pads against fast movers is not a winning solution. You know,
Yeah, it's
you get
definitely not
one,
where you
great,
want to
give the kid a medal,
be.
you know, but you can't count on it.
Captain
And so,
Darwin. Oh, sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm just saying that, like, don't be disappointed when your mad pads don't shoot down close air support aircraft.
I'll be
They
disappointed
probably
if I want it. Even if I expected them to fail at it, I'm still going to be disappointed.
okay. Okay. All
I
right.
mean,
Here's your
yeah.
milk. Here's your milk. Let me dump it on the floor.
Thank
It's
you,
now
thank
it's
you. I
spilled. Go ahead.
appreciate that.
All
Have we mentioned that artillery fire
yeah,
versus
yeah,
tanks tend
yeah.
to result
I,
in soft kills?
all right.
No, we didn't explicitly mention it, but I will show that here.
Mhm.
So this unit has received a lot of 155 fire from the enemy 109s, but only 2 of the tanks are actually dead, and we haven't yet released the 214 patch with the better radiolog stuff. But I would guess that these 2 dead casualties aren't even from the howitzers. They're probably from the ITOs or the Abrams. Is probably what those 2 actual kills are from.
Okay. Yep. Concur.
Um,
And audience, go look at the chat. Read Captain Darwin's words of
yeah.
wisdom.
And so, Claude, you also asked, and I know Darwin already talked about that, but as far as Ewar jamming, that's kind of abstracted, but you can see that if you go to intelligence, EW report. So the blue, and this is one of the areas where we don't color code this to faction, so it's just a little bit weird, but so the blue is how much Ewar penalty, or maybe it is color-coded defection. I don't remember. You can see we're inflicting a lot of Ewar on the enemy. High, not as high as we were earlier in the scenario, an hour ago, but still pretty good now. But we are kind of dwindling our electronic warfare off. In the meantime, the enemy has stepped up now that they know stuff is going down. We'll see if they continue to step that up in an hour, but yeah, that's kind of how that works, and you can see kind of the impact what the enemy Ewar is on you right now. So it is a strong impact on how long your OODA loop cycle is. Um, so you can see how now that the Ewar on the enemy is dying off a little, and also they've suffered a lot of casualties, their OODA loop is getting shorter. Um, ours is getting shorter thanks to our rather painful number of casualties. I'm not sure. We are doing
Yeah.
better than the enemy on casualties.
Comment
Which
on
is nice.
Ewar. Okay, so Ewar is predominantly about command and control systems,
Yeah.
secondarily about fire support systems, does not factor into things like missiles shooting at tanks, missiles shooting at aircraft.
Yeah, it's
Those things,
the
those
jammers
things,
for radios and stuff
it's
predominantly.
so when we're talking about like, okay, so like shooting a missile at an airplane, we're talking about what the jammers on the airplane have and what the jammer filters are on the missile, and that war is at that level, munition versus target. The overall electronic warfare is more about command and control, secondarily about the impact on fire support, and all of those are in terms of like delay. How long is your turn? How long does it take to get when you give an order? How long does it take a unit to begin executing the order?
1%
You got a fire
readiness.
support request in, either you click it on the map or it's automated through the fire support coordination center.
Yes! Killed that cav scout finally.
The time between the mission is ordered by whatever means and it gets fired. Electronic warfare plays a part in that.
I think this was the very first Cav Scout we spotted, and it's finally dead 3 hours into the scenario. We've been hunting it down for so long. Oh, hey, look at that. Our helicopter getting the drop on the Stinger team. Looks like it only killed the Jeep. Less Ewar burden on us, I think. Or was that less on them? Oh, we lost our helicopter to the Stinger itself, though.
Okay, so a comment that you made about like you finally killed that scout unit. So it's a small unit in complex terrain.
Yeah.
I got to tell you, as a squad leader, infantry squad leader, that's not hard to do, to evade.
Oh yeah, no, like it's totally justified because that's
a long time.
Because that wasn't entirely clear to you guys, that was the scout dismount from a scout Bradley, so it's just 2 guys. Like, you're trying to find 2 guys over, this was like, I don't know, like 4 hex by 4 hex square, basically, is what he was kind of bouncing around in. So, like, and I mean, when we first spotted it, we killed one of the Bradleys while they were dismounted already. And then the next kill was the other Bradley. So, we spent most of that time, I think, chasing the 2 dismounts, each being 2 guys. So just 4 guys running around. So it's totally justified for it to have taken as long as it did to find them.
Well, I bring this up because we've had questions in Discord and in the forums about, like, I move a tank battalion into a town. There's a squad left. Why aren't they dead?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Guess what? You can hide.
Right? I think
it's very effective.
I think it was 2 tutorials episodes ago. It was a fairly flat map. I remember it was when It was the one on mechanized infantry, where ZdDog did the run around. Got a whole BMP company behind NATO positions, completely
Yes.
unhinged
Right.
them, and there were teams in basically 0% or like 10%
Yeah, we had
like concealment
Stinger
terrain.
teams in the open ground hiding 500 meters away because, well, okay, it wasn't Stingers because it was Iglas, but oh no, it was Stingers
Yeah, it
because we
was
were
it
playing
was the
Warsaw
NATO
Pact. Yeah, it
units.
was Stinger teams where we had killed the Jeep, and it was Joe and Bob with their one Stinger launcher and pair of M16s or whatever laying in the grass. And I mean, they couldn't do much because we also killed the artillery. Actually, we hadn't killed all the artillery. They still had the mortars, and the mortars were being kind of painful. Um, and this
But
is,
it's very believable because like it's farmland, so there's not too much cover. But two guys with a Stinger team can find an irrigation ditch or something like that easy enough, or just a bit of low ground, and well, it's
yeah,
going to be hard to find them.
I just got to tell you, in training, I've lived that thing numerous times, right? Whether it's a squad, one time a platoon in the high grass, like look calling for a click, over like most of a day to get to a headquarters to attack it. Other times it's like me and some guys, the last survivors, like in the middle of the night somewhere, being chased by tanks. I mean, you can do that. Like when you don't have a vehicle, it's not hard to hide. You need like about 8 inches of dirt,
yep.
and you can hide.
And that's
You
without
know,
busting out your shovel.
yeah, and like, and then you want to get into a village. That's easy.
Yeah.
That's not hard to do.
I do want to just, again, because this is the artillery tutorial. So one
Yeah,
of the changes I made here is this battery is getting low on its HE ammunition. So I went ahead and switched it to my counter battery because we're not doing a lot of counter battery fire so far anyway. And I put the battery that was doing counter battery into it on call. That way we can kind of maintain that on call availability without having to give up anything. Because we've only got
that
an hour left. If I send that guy to resupply, he's going to be resupplying almost to the end of the scenario anyway.
that well, you can set like how much to resupply in the SOP, right?
Yeah.
All right, so there's
And so we
there's
could
that.
do a shorter
It's very
resupply
it's
too, for
it's not
sure.
it's not like he's out of the battle for half an hour. More importantly, given this is the artillery tutorial, right, is the plan at what points in your operation which batteries are going to resupply, which we didn't talk about that.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. We should probably talk about that kind of as an AAR.
Yeah.
Because we have kind of brought that up a little bit in previous scenarios, but in this one, didn't have too much of that going on. I kind of flushed all the ammunition downrange, let
Well,
everything
and
kind of go to
that's what
resupply
you
right
got.
away.
That's what you got to do with this mission. You're doing a you're gap
Yeah,
crossing, so that you're gonna belch a lot of ammo. Now you got to figure out like at what point in time do I need more fires on the other side of the gap, and
we were.
figure out and plan for how much fires you're going to have available when, and map that out.
Yeah. I
Or
just want to.
or you can just do it and like react to it, and that's where you're at now. Is you're reacting to your ammo status instead of planning what your ammo status. You can plan your ammo status, or you can react to it.
Yeah. I do want to highlight here. So we have our GSR recon unit here. Um, that I was like, okay, they're not spotting anything here. I want to see if I can't put them up on some position. And I don't think they're going to make this position by the end of the scenario here. There's less than an hour left. Um, but, I want to have them move and, you know, let's pretend like the day doesn't magically end 4 hours in and we wanted to continue operations. So I'll have him go do recon, maybe see if he can't go find the enemy artillery because our helicopters are having trouble.
Okay,
Um,
so AAR point. granted, you have this tremendous asset that can see lots of things for a long range. And where it's at now and
He
where
can't
you're
actually see very far. Which is
and he's not looking at the major axis of approach to your objective.
yeah. This is one of those. I had him in a position so that I could do the initial crossing, and after
You forget
that it
about
was gonna be no, I didn't forget about him. It's just a matter of I don't is he amphibious? If he's amphibious, then I guess I kind of misplayed him. But
Pretty sure they are.
oh, they are amphibious.
I,
Yeah.
I'm
So
just
after I
I'm
made the
just thinking
initial crossing,
I'm
I
just
should have
thinking
had him cross up here
like
and come around.
is it more important for him to see if there's guys on the other side of your crossing point where you're gonna shove, 15 metric tons of rockets
Yeah.
on the overlook positions, or should you move him for future help to watch the approach to your objective?
Yeah. I probably
AAR
should have done
point.
that.
That's all.
Yeah. Anyway, mostly what I wanted to bring up here is uh, clearly the enemy still has some sort of reconnaissance unspotted here because as soon as this guy started moving, artillery started falling on his head.
Mm-hmm.
So there's clearly some recon still going on there.
Yeah.
Which in some way highlights the maybe it's somewhat futile to try and hunt down every last enemy unit that could be scouting you out, because it's hard to find every single one.
If somebody's in high concealment or high cover,
There's still something
and
hiding
they
here.
don't do something like move or shoot, it's hard to spot them if they're small.
Yeah.
Right. And keep that in mind when you're like.
Oh, that's the FARP.
Put your. Wow. Keep that in mind when you're gonna like put your own recon out there, because it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Hide your vehicles, and it's very possible that you hide your vehicles, put the guys in hold, and if you got enough time, you can watch a regiment drive by 1 hex away, count all the vehicles, and never be spotted.
Yeah.
Right. Unless somebody drives into your hex, then now it's flip a coin.
Ooh, man, this guy books. He started that turn still up here, and he's all the way down to here. He might actually make this position by then. I don't think he will.
What's his movement type?
He's attract.
I mean, is he assaulting or deliberate or what?
Deliberate.
AC? Okay.
It's a deliberate move. So we lost the last of our helicopters, but we did spot the enemy FARP. So let's go ahead and drop some shells on that,
Oh yeah.
because that's not going anywhere very quickly.
Not some, but everything you got.
Yeah, I was saying, and we might as well, if we've only got 48 left, we might as well fire all 48.
Yeah.
25 minutes left of operations too.
I'm sorry?
25
25
minutes.
minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wonder if I issue that
Okay.
order.
So,
There's
so
no shot he makes that,
Claude's
right?
asking about the troop transport capacity of Heinz. We don't treat Heinz as transports. Yes, they can, but we haven't modeled that yet.
It's coming. Someday, maybe.
Someday, maybe. Yeah.
635.
It's
Yeah,
a
he
back.
can't make that.
It's
in
a back.
time.
It's
That's
a back
unfortunate.
burner thing. There's more important things for us to do. Love to do it, but
yeah,
only so many hours in a year.
So, Jeff, the NATO defense scheme here, they've got their cavalry units, watching the crossing points. They've got a lot of artillery on call. What do you think of how the scenario designer has gone about that with those cavalry units up there? Like, it seems, a really good idea. And as a defender, you can only really be reactive with your artillery. You can't really be proactive as much, can you?
Right. So I don't have a fault with with the cav guys being forward watching for crossing points. That's what you do. And their main job is to call fires, right? And so I don't think we model it now. Be really good for us to model like you know, and it's hard to it's hard to program this thing. Like, you know, like when do you do it? But it would be great to be able to say, well, I'm at a river crossing and or in behind a minefield or whatever. You know, something that will give the enemy pause, and they got to do stuff to get through it. And so when I see smoke, well, the human reaction is to start calling fires in the smoke. You know, we don't do that now. So if you're playing the Americans as a human,
Ooh, that's
you know,
interesting.
when that stuff starts to happen, you can do that. So that's correct. And so first, you got these recon guys forward, and they have to identify where the actual crossing points are. You know, smoke comes in, and some of, you know, you do deception.
Oh, weird. What? Oh, because
So,
they
you know,
start.
you're going to cross in 2 places, and so you throw smoke out in 4 places. You hit all those with artillery. At some point, you figure out where the actual crossings are. And those guys need to like figure out where the mass is coming from. Where's the main effort coming from? And so you got to have those eyes forward, and that's the right thing to do.
All right, so we only
After that,
just
as a
edged out.
defender, you kind of have to react to it, right?
Ooh. We did not want to go
All right.
south. Not going south was the right call. Look how much is still down there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been.
Whoa, yeah.
There
Bulldog
was
and
an
company.
untouched infantry company, and actually it's like a reinforced infantry company with a tank platoon.
Yeah, I think what the battle plan did was basically it sent half the force to one of the high value victory point locations and half to the other.
Yeah, it does
And
look like that. Yeah.
if you try to take both of them, you'll fail. If you mass on one, you'll succeed.
Oh my God! So this cav unit, cav scout, is what spotted that.
Yeah.
Oh man! Like it's so. I mean, well, okay. It also could have been this guy. I guess either one of them would have done the job there. Oh, these aren't even Bradleys. These are just the
M113s,
M113
yeah.
Scout
Yeah.
with Cav Scout teams, which I think. Yeah, these are slightly larger units. It's 5 guys, but we still look at the same profile
But
size 1.
big thing is no thermals,
Yeah, no thermals.
and smoke matters
Yep.
a lot.
All right, so where was the enemy? Is the enemy? Oh, the enemy artillery is off map. Oh. Okay, that's a little bit rude of the scenario designer to put the enemy artillery off map for the NATO when they're the AIs. Let's see. Looks like the farm just dodged. Yes, the farm. It did. I think it withdrew as soon as it got spotted by the helicopter. I didn't notice that it was withdrawing, and that's one of those things where it.
That's probably a thing that shouldn't happen.
Yeah.
You know, right now we treat a FARP as like any other unit, and they're not.
Yeah.
You know, being a FARP is a big deal.
Is there setting up and breaking down time just a exceptionally long?
Yeah.
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 It's
like,
on the order of like 6+ hours, I think.
More like 12 hours.
12 hours. Yeah. So it's like it's the duration of the scenario. So it's one of those things where hopefully soon-ish, like if we change that, it'll probably be like in the summer. This summer. But we're getting closer to the point where fixing that is more reasonable soon.
Yeah. And along with that is another logistic action, which would be how do you fix broken tanks and APCs?
Yeah.
Well, you got battalions have battalions and brigades have maintenance guys, and U.S. Army wise, you have a thing called a unit maintenance collection point, and how far forward that is, and this is more of a campaign thing, but how far forward that is will drive your ability to repair and return things to service, like regenerate combat power.
Mhm.
And it's very sensitive to the distance from the front lines. And I had a conversation with a active duty battalion commander. It's like, well, if you put it too far back, then like within 3 days of sustained combat, you're down 25% of your combat power, because the distance to recover broken stuff matters.
Mhm.
And right now, we don't do that piece of maintenance, in the simulation. Probably going to do it at some point,
Yeah.
but it's down the road.
So just to kind of demonstrate the deadliness of artillery compared to everything else. Enemy infantry, all of it together has 2, 3, 4, 5 knockouts. Their tanks, one unit got 14 of my tanks, which is horrifying, and only got fallen out in exchange. So if they could get there, they're recoverable tanks. And then the next time we see kills is this unit of artillery scored 7. This unit scored 23 of my tanks. Just amazing accuracy. Or luck, really. This one scores 9
volume of
knockouts.
fire. It's volume of fire with really
Yeah.
big bullets. That's what it is.
Yeah. I'm guessing these 3-1 AVNs are the helicopters that they had. Yeah, because it's the helo kill. So, uh, you know, honestly didn't do much. We got kind of lucky with our stingers putting their helicopters down real hard. Sorry, I said stingers, Iglas. But our Iglas put their helicopters down real hard before they could do anything.
I didn't realize the fixed wing attacking you was also A10s.
Yeah, it was A10s, and that did a lot as well. But like artillery, that's 39 kills from artillery. I don't think, let's see, their mortars didn't get to do anything because we found their mortars with the helicopters. The one bit of artillery that has to stay on map, so we got to find it. Yeah, so that one battery of artillery, the 3 platoons, did more damage than anything else. The only thing that came close was the A10s and this one lucky unit platoon of tanks. Because the enemy tanks, out of 14, we knocked out 8 of them. They only have 6 left. And those 4 are the only 4 that did anything.
Now, I will caution everybody to like, okay, great. The artillery is killing most of the stuff. That's true, but that's a smaller slice of the pie than capturing objectives.
Was my chemical strike effective to interdict area versus the AI? So sort of.
Oh yeah.
This
Oh,
unit of
absolutely.
M901s, I think, all of its casualties is NBC. It looks like. Again, this is one of those. Stay tuned for the next patch radio log, but I think all of its casualties are from this permanent. The casualties here are probably the same. We did get NBC contaminated on it. Yeah.
Watching the game unfold, right? My read is that non-persistent strike prevented getting an anti-tank unit at the objective that was the goal of
Yeah.
Kevin's plan.
The
I think
non-persistent
that
was amazing because that was here
it
and you
was
could
it
see all
was
the corpses.
it was a critical piece,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to say it was definitive. It
But I
was a
don't know that
very
yeah, I mean, I don't know that it was definitive, but at the very least, like,
it sure as hell made things easier.
well, okay, so I don't know that it was definitive as in we would have not taken the objective had that not happened. However, I don't know that we would have won if it hadn't happened because
Right,
our
right,
victory
right,
margin is we're only at 52%. We needed
right,
51% to win. We barely made
right.
it. If we had lost
And
3, 4 more tanks,
you're in the regime of casualties tip the balance either way.
yeah,
And so by eliminating that anti-armor company, I think that had you not done that, it
yeah. So
very likely would have been flipped the other way.
I think this is our non-persistent chemical here. Is this unit of rockets with the 8
Uh-huh.
infantry? So you know that chemical did 2 platoons of infantry. I just didn't have to worry about. And uh, this spat it killed actually probably would have been from that as well as the 2 AT. That's the 2 dragon teams that
Mm-hmm.
are organic there. So yeah, I mean, I don't know that it made the difference, but I would say it probably made the difference.
I hang my hat on making the difference, Claude.
Yeah,
It interdicted a rapid move to reinforce or hold or establish a defense of one of the objectives.
yeah,
We didn't mess with the Western objective, and like they moved the company plus in there.
yeah. And I mean, I tried to hit it, and we got a little bit of it. This platoon is mostly dead. This platoon is mostly dead. And of course, the anti tank is neutralized. The only thing left here is the command vehicle. So there's, out of this reinforced company, actually, there's still a whole healthy company in here.
Now going back
But
to the target of the non-persistent, right? Which you made an area that straddled
it's
500
straddle.
meters east
Yeah,
east and west of the reinforcement route, which is up the road.
yeah,
Okay, so the unasked question is, well, like, could you do that with conventional artillery? And I would say probably you could.
yeah,
You didn't need gas to pull that off,
yeah. Where's the
but
first
it was a
rocket?
resource that was going to vanish. You use it,
Yep.
right?
Um,
And
where's rocket
and
one?
I don't know if there's a and I'll ask Captain Darwin. I don't know if there's a political cost for using chemicals like there is for nukes.
I think we do have a score diff penalty for that. Yeah, so they get, or I guess it should be, I get a penalty of 500 points
Okay,
here. So, like, if I hadn't, oh no, I'm 15 TR. Sorry, they're getting a bonus, not I'm getting a penalty. They're getting a bonus because I used chemical.
right.
Um, so,
So if
that
you use
definitely didn't help.
conventional, then that pushes your margin of victory up a little bit.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot, but a little bit.
chemical striker
And
effective.
that's
Yeah,
part of your combat calculus as a Warsaw Pact commander. Like if you have chemical assets, do you use them?
yeah. And I
I
wonder
don't
if I
know.
should have just
I don't
permanently
know if there's
chemicaled this one.
I mean, you did two strike. It did two strikes. Are they cumulative or I don't know if I haven't
Ooh,
worked
that's
in
a
that
good
code.
question. Are they
I don't know.
cumulative?
I don't know if it's like chemical versus persistent versus non-persistent, one strike versus two. Is there a cumulative thing or is it like the worst thing you did
I don't
is
remember if it's
your
cumulative
penalty.
or
I
not.
don't know.
I
I
don't
don't
think we
know.
differentiate between persistent and non-persistent. Um, and I think nuclear and chemical together are cumulative, but I don't think that multiple chemical strikes will be cumulative.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have it's
I defer to Captain Darwin.
yeah.
You know, Charles will probably tell us
Captain
better. I
Darwin
don't know.
or William or Rob might know the answer more clearly to that than I do, because it has been like the only reason I know anything about it is because I was doing all the radio log update stuff, and so
Right.
I was sitting, I was looking next to that code. Um,
And
it,
here we are talking in public, and we're like, we build this stuff. We don't know the answer.
well,
That's embarrassing.
in my
But
defense,
that's
I
good.
didn't build it. I just added on to
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
it.
I've been working on this stuff for like,
Yeah.
gosh, what? Oh, 9 years.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer. Not what I work in,
Yeah.
but I don't know the answer.
So for as part of the AR, I think you guys wanted to talk about resupply and artillery and
Yes.
deliberately trying to calc out, okay, when is there going to be a lull in the firing? When do I have to pull guns offline?
Absolutely. Right. And I go back to my experience working in division command post and watching my division commander point his finger at the artillery brigade commander and say, truth in lending, when are you going to be fires while we're doing this operation? So, and it's complex, right? You got multiple firing units. The one thing you don't want to ever have happen is everybody's out of ammo at the same time. So that's the first thing is like figure out and hopefully you're not rationing ammunition while you're fighting. You go like, well, okay, I'd like to fire this many rounds, but I can't do that because this guy's going to run out and nobody else has ammo yet. You don't want to get there.
Yeah.
And so and it's kind of advanced gameplay, right? Get your notepad out, right? And it helps to break your, I stress this, it helps to break your plan down into phases
Hmm.
and figure out what you want your artillery to do in each phase. And then the next thing is like, okay, who's going to shoot what kind of missions and what frequency and make priorities and figure out like what's the sequence of resupply. You don't got to get down to the round count versus the clock. If you get down to like, oh, I'm going to fire this guy, I'm going to fire this guy, I'm going to fire this guy, and the first guy's empty, he'll resupply, and I got like two other guys that are still firing.
Yeah.
That's the kind of level of detail you got to get
You always
to
want
make
at
sure
least
that you
one
always
unit
have
that
fire.
has
You always
ammo.
want to have fires, and you want to avoid, unless it's desperation. And I'm not saying you're not going to ever get desperate. Sometimes you get desperate. You fire everything you got, and
Yeah.
cross your fingers that you don't need more fires to survive before they get resupplied. But you want to approach it from the standpoint of continuous fires. Might not always be not continuous volume, but just you got somebody who can shoot fires. Make sense?
Mm-hmm. Definitely. If I remember right,
1379
some
for
of
some
these.
reason isn't showing up in this reported kills and claims list, I guess. Oh no, there it is. Ha! I found it. He scored 4 kills.
Yeah, Claude. Like fire planning is an art, right? And the more you do it, the better you get at it.
Yeah. And you definitely want to make sure you always have at least one battery that can respond to requests, whether it's on-call requests or you spot a target of opportunity and you want to call in a strike yourself. Um, Having at least one battery available to respond at all times is really good. So often what I will do is I will have one of my batteries will specifically do a rest and resupply before all the other batteries in the regular lull. You know, if I've got not necessarily like a full lull, but like combat operations aren't at their peak, one of my batteries goes to rest and resupply right away so that I can cover during the lull. There's still going to be one platoon of artillery that can respond to requests.
Okay, here's my easy button. All right, so I will typically this is my personal play style. I will typically put everything on FSCC, and the reason for that is
Oh yeah, I
it
don't take anything out most
gives
of the
me
time.
fires in response to enemy activity
Hmm.
during turn resolution. Now, when the orders time comes up, if I don't like what the unfired missions are plotted, like I can cancel them.
Yeah.
I can shift them and all that kind of stuff. And then I will normally look at all my batteries, look at how long my turn cycle is. And if I'm in a heavy EW environment, I'm looking at like a 1 hour thing. Well, if I got I'll take the lowest battery and put them in resupply. Unless everybody's above 50%, I'll take the lowest ammo battery and do a resupply. And then when they get resupplied, they're on FSCC, so they're going to start getting missions. Before my next order cycle.
Yeah. Leaving stuff
That's
in FSCC control is incredibly valuable for faster response times, especially like NATO here had 40-minute cycles that they were started with. Um, you don't want to wait 40 minutes before you can even put in the fire request, and then it's still going to take like 5 minutes for that request to get to the unit before it even starts firing.
right. And
That unit
think
may
about
not be there by the time it gets to your order cycle.
well, I mean, even so, think about the order cycle compared to how many missions you can order a unit to fight. Or you can tell a battery to fire 6 missions. That's a half hour firing. If your order cycle is more than a half hour, that means that after that, if they're not on FSCC, they're idle.
Yeah.
Right. Even if they're on FSCC, you can like give them orders and they'll fire those missions, and then they'll go over to FSCC and start firing the missions in queue.
Yeah. Oh, I
And
forgot
so
to. I
there.
did this, and I forgot to talk about it. Um, one of the things you can do, guys, to make your artillery more responsive is you can set your artillery to respond to specific units. So I set my
Oh yeah,
mortars that were organic to the battalion that started on the field to only respond to same formation and lower, and that reduced how many hops the message has to make to get to the mortar unit, which meant that its response time was significantly improved. Well, maybe not significantly, but improved over the response times of the howitzer artillery that I had. You can see
and
the maximum response time is
it's
17
also
minutes instead of
it's
19
also an
minutes.
ammo conservation tactic, right?
That too, yeah.
So you got a battery, right? And you say, well, okay, I want this battery to only shoot for this company because this company is the first to make contact, right? And you're not going to set this for like the whole game, right? You're going to shift, and what you're saying is the priority of fire for the battery is this company and missions coming from the platoons in that company.
Yeah.
So what that means is if some other, if the scout sees some random thing way out there and they're going to make a fire request, well, it's not going to go to that battery, right? If there's something else like battalion mortars, okay, fine, the battalion mortars will fire.
Mm-hmm.
But the fires for the battery are linked to that company and lower, right? That's the priority mission, and they'll reject everything else. And so one thing is that it's you're going to get more fires in that company sector, as opposed to like across the battalion sector. And this platoon sees something, that platoon sees something, and this platoon in A company sees something, this platoon in B company sees something, that platoon in C company sees something. Equivalent targets. Now it's like first come first serve. That might not fit your defensive plan or your attack plan, right?
Yeah.
What you really want is B company is like the main thrust. So you set the battery to say, like, listen to B company first. Listen to B company only.
Yeah. I'll
And
do that a lot where I'll set artillery to respond to specifically the lead, my assaulting units, the assaulting company or battalion, because it's like they're the guys who are going to need the fire support the most. So only respond to them, or I'll set it to like only respond to my recon elements because they're going to catch the enemies way out ahead, and I'll take it so that you respond to all requests later. But early on, so much of that spotting is only going to come from these guys anyway. We're just going
right.
to shorten that loop to
Well,
make that artillery a lot more responsive.
it shortens the loop, and then you get like something out in left field that, like, at that point, I'm not sure what that means. But you don't want to throw rounds at it because you don't know what it means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So, whether you're doing defense or attack, you know where your priorities are.
Yeah.
You know where you're worried about things, so you can restrict your indirect fire support to the places that you feel are most important. And as Kevin said, it shortens the response time. It's a real thing. You're cutting out a whole lot of staff people, like deciding what, who's going to shoot what and which targets are more important. It doesn't matter. Those guys get the priority. If they call for fire, you give it to them. There's that. The other thing is then, because that battery is only firing for one unit and its children, their ammunition consumption drops because they're only supporting one piece of your force,
Yeah.
which is where your main effort is, or where you're thinking. If you're in defense, you're thinking you're countering the enemy's main effort. And it's faster and it's more efficient in terms of ammunition consumption. Reduces headaches about resupply. There's a lot of benefits to do that.
Yeah.
And that's how the pros do it.
Well, I think that probably covers everything we wanted to talk about today.
Mm-hmm. Pretty comprehensive coverage on the last argument of kings.
One last interesting note is our howitzer and mortar artillery actually did relatively little in terms of direct casualties this time. I think it's probably the lowest I've ever had howitzer and and mortar artillery do in terms of damage inflicted. But I feel like they also were able to do a lot of those soft effects of suppression, lowering enemy readiness and stuff that we didn't get to see. You don't get to see as much directly, especially if you kill a unit by the end of the game anyway.
How many missions were targeted against spotted units versus
Ooh,
against?
that's an interesting question.
I
Let's
think
see.
they're on that ridge line. That's the difference, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the fire missions were on this early ridge line where we didn't hit much, if anything.
There could have been tow teams there, though. So that's the purpose of
there
that.
definitely there could have been stuff, so we had to do it. There wasn't, so we didn't hit anything, but we had to do it. Let's see.
And that's part and parcel to attacking.
So there's firing the smoke. So
You're going to
after the
throw a
initial
bunch of
barrage,
you're,
one,
you're,
two,
you're going to throw a bunch of rounds where you think
three,
guys might
four,
be, right?
5. I don't know. Let's see. Hang on. So there's the smoke order.
And I want to
So
highlight
one,
what Captain Darwin said
two,
in
three,
his last comment.
5, 6.
The notion of if you're whether you're going to fire a preparatory bombardment or you're in a defense, it's not uncommon, going back to World War I, to put a stockpile of stuff that you shoot first that's not in your vehicles.
Yeah.
And this continues to today in the Ukraine, right? The notion of you get your basic load in your howitzer and in your ammo carrier, but my first missions are in a pile on the ground next to the howitzer. I'm going to
Yeah.
pull from that and then displace.
Yep.
You know, and that's a future thing we're going to put in.
Yeah, it looks like so these two batteries that were not in counter battery the whole time, they spent 6 fire missions each after the initial barrage. This
Okay.
one had, I think it was 4. 1, 2. Oh no, just the 2. So that's another 2. The mortars actually did about as many as you could really expect, considering they can only fire 3 before they have to resupply. So there's this.
So like going back to this game here, Kevin, we had a like scant visual on enemy, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So
I think that
we
was mostly because we we ended up doing a lot here with that
but
chemical. But yeah.
but we had scant targeting information,
Hmm.
right? So there's no missions going into the FCC for fires.
Yeah.
You know, so what do you do about that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was definitely the recon probably should have been pushed forward a little more aggressively, but
I think it is maybe worth mentioning too that this is a very complex map. Lots of forests, lots of hills.
it's
There are
really
Oh
some
yeah.
scenarios.
complex.
There are some scenarios in Southern Storm still, which is in the more complex terrain area of Germany. But there's still scenarios where you have a mostly flat plain of farmland and maybe 3 hexes of forest and 3 hexes of
Right.
town, and it's
Right.
well, where are the NATO guys? Oh well, quite obvious where they're going to be.
Yeah. They're
So
going to be in
learning
those hexes.
the teaching point here is look at your map and be aware of like what's the terrain considerations to fire support.
Yeah.
Target acquisition is harder. Okay, so what do you do to enhance that? So you're Kevin, you had attack helicopters that you sent on hunt to go find assets in the rear that were
Yeah.
actually ended up being off map. Lesson learned here is maybe
They needed to
do
be recon on the
yes,
objectives. Yeah.
because of terrain complexity. It might have been better to use them to be artillery spotters, to feed
Yeah.
data in, and that now your idle batteries are firing missions.
Where were we saw, I could have sworn some stingers coming out of this town. Where are they? Well, because I assume it's not the dragons.
The senior teams might be dead.
Maybe? Yeah, maybe we just killed the whatever the stinger unit was entirely. That might be what happened.
Okay, so you're looking at the objective to the southwest, which you had ruled out as an objective.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of uninterested in your curiosity over there because it wasn't the focus, the
Yeah, I mean, the
self-defined
only
focus of your
reason
mission.
I was sending some stuff over here was because we hadn't yet spotted all of the enemy artillery, so I needed to send my helicopters a way to try and get back into the deep enemy lines and try and find it. Like, obviously, I couldn't because it was off map, but I didn't know that.
Right.
So I sent
My,
it this
my,
way.
my,
It
yeah,
did find the farm.
my point would be clear the avenue approach to the objective you want to take.
Yeah.
Right. Make sure there's nothing on there. If there is, then it gets already to death.
Yeah.
Just because the helos spot them.
It is interesting. I feel like I probably would have been better off just doing the persistent chemical on one of these two objectives. If probably just do the persistent chemical on this one and just plan on just taking this one by force, even if the enemy's bulk of defense is up here. For anybody else who does want to try this scenario, there are 3 battle plans for this scenario that the AI could have chosen from. I don't know which one that it did choose from, but my point here is don't assume how things played out here is how they'll play out for you. There's only a 33% chance that they'll play out the same way.
Actually, 25% because then you could always say no battle plan.
Yeah, but you have to specifically pick that, in which case it guaranteed won't play out the same way. But yeah, anyway, I think that wraps us up here. Thank you guys very much for joining. We'll have Liam. What's 5? What's the next one coming?
Episode 5 is going to be aircraft, both helicopters and fixed wing.
Ooh.
Oh boy, fun.
All right. We'll have to. That'll be fun. There's lots of good dangerous stuff you can do with helicopters, and as we saw, fixed wing stuff can be absolutely devastating. There's lots of people talking about in Discord how they get
So
A-10s coming in and wiping out entire tank companies and stuff. So.
and along with that, we're going to have to talk about air defense.
Yes, we'll get to talk about air defense. So lots of fun stuff to talk about there.
Yeah.
We'll have that coming up.
Air defense is covered in the video as well. So yeah. There's plenty of air defense too.
Is that video already out? Is the short video already out?
No.
No. Okay.
It'll be out end of February.
End of February. Okay. So yeah, stay tuned, guys. Keep an eye out for that video in, I guess that's 2 or 3 weeks at this point. And
this live stream will be saved and up on YouTube as well within probably next week. So
Sweet.
if you only caught like the last half of this, don't worry, the whole thing's going up on YouTube.
Yep. And we'll get the next long form Twitch stream on that air defense and air attack coming up in, I guess, a month or so. If you guys want to see some battle sector, I'm going to be, after I reset everything, grab myself a snack. We're going to do some battle sector after this. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you guys next time.
All right,
SgtZdog, Jeff, and Liam are headed out for now, though.
Nope.
Oh, not yet.
One more.
Jeff's got one more point.
Yeah, one more comment. Okay, so to the audience, end of April is Modern Day Marine in DC, and Rob and I will be there. If you're in town, look us up.
That's cool. Rob didn't bring me along. He's not bringing me along. I have too much work to do. All right.
Back to the salt mine. Get back in the salt mine.
Yeah. Hey, I gotta go farm some more milk so I can spill it on the floor.
I'm checking out. Take care, guys.
All right. Bye, everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.